Hello GameMakers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in today's episode we now have a title screen, we have saving and loading, so we can move around on the map, save our position. It works pretty well and it's actually quite simple to do, so let's get started. Alright, so let's go into the create event of OBJ main, and at the very bottom here we have a brand new region called main states, and we're going to have a couple of states for the main object. Title screen, so when the game starts it'll just say title screen, and then when we press enter we're going to be displaying the 3 save files. And then we're going to press up or down and then press enter depending on whether there's a game to load or not. It's going to go to load game or game ready. If there is a load game, then it's going to run a script and then change to game ready, and then the game's going to run as normal. If there's no game, then it just gets set to that anyway. The starting state is title screen, and global.current save file is which save file has the player chosen, which one are they playing, etc, etc. And I've commented out this code down here because we're now going to be using this state system to choose the room. This means that you're not going to be able to go to the editor or the testing room anymore. Obviously all you have to do to do that is just uncomment this out, and then as long as you have your game state set to editing or testing, you'll go to the correct room like that. Let's take a look at this script. It's a new script. Basically, we're going to have 3 blank rectangles, and if there is a saved game file, we're going to display the date and time it was saved. If there's no save file in that slot, then we're going to display no data. So this is what the script is going to sort out. It's a for loop going from 0 to 3 because there's 3 save slots. Fname is the file name, which is it's always tactics underscore save underscore, and then the string of I, so it's going to be 0, 1 or 2, and then .text. So the full save name would be something like this. Like that. So that would be the name of one of our save files, and then that would be the second one, and that would be the third one. So we're going to check to see if this file name exists. At the start of the game, none of those files should exist. If it does, then we're going to open the file, which is what this line does. And then the way these files work is you have to read them line by line, but it's okay because the date we're going to use is going to be stored on the very first line, so we can just use this line here to get the date of the file, and then save slot dates is going to be an array that stores that value, and then we're going to close the file. Otherwise, if the file does not exist, then save slot dates is going to equal no data. Don't worry about this too much right now because this isn't going to be relevant until we actually save the game. But just make sure you've got the code down for now. At the start of the game, we should see 3 slots saying no data because these files don't exist. Okay, so now we are going to add a new event to the main object. And it's going to be a draw GUI event like this, and we're going to put some code in there. Okay, so let's focus on this top bit for now. So this is what it looks like with all the regions folded. And then we're going to go into this region here, the title screen region. which is what should happen at the first. All we're going to do is in the middle center of the screen in white and using our conversation font, we're just going to draw it in the middle of the screen there. We are going to draw the words title screen, pretty easy. And then so we can test the save slot straight away, we're going to have this region. So rather than using sprites, I'm just going to draw rectangles. So the height of each rectangle is going to be this value. The width is half the width of the GUI. The space between each of the rectangles is going to be 20. And then this for loop is going to draw all of our rectangles. Every time the loop runs, we're going to set x1, x2, y1, y2. This is the top left and bottom right coordinates of the rectangle. And then if global.current save file equals I, this is basically the current save file the player has selected. At the start of the game, it's always going to be the first one because global.current save file has been set to 0 at the start of the game. So if it is the currently selected file, we're going to draw the rectangle in white. Otherwise, we're going to draw the rectangle in dark grey and then draw the rectangle. And it's going to be an outline. We're going to make use of our save slot dates array by getting the string from each entry. Again, in the middle center, we're going to use some draw coordinates to draw the string. So if we now run the game, and I forgot to put in the code to change it. Let's do that next. Okay, so pretty simple. We're just going to go into obj main and make a step event. And we're going to put this code. So if the main state is title screen and we press enter, we're going to set main state to display save files. So we can actually see the save files. So just run the game and we should actually be able to see the save files now. There we go. So we've got 3 save files. They all say no data. The top one is drawn in white because it's the currently selected one, and the other 2 are dark grey. So pressing up or down doesn't do anything. Pressing enter doesn't do anything because we haven't coded that yet. But as long as you have this, then you are at the right place. So we've added some new code in the step event of obj main, which is this stuff here. So this is what it looks like with the region closed. This is new. So if we're in the main state of display save files, we're going to have this region. We're going to use, well, if we press up or down, we're going to use our change option script to modify the global.current save file. Minimum 0, maximum 2, increments of 1. If we press enter, this isn't going to do anything apart from show us a debug message. So we're just going to make sure it's working, detecting the name of the file. So file name equals this. If the file exists, then we're going to say, okay, we can load the game. If the file doesn't exist, then it's going to say new game. So all that should happen is every time we press enter, we should see new game. So let's run the game again. As you can see at the bottom, new game. We can press up and down and it'll change a different slot to highlight. Just to make sure, here is the rest of the curly brackets for the region, just to make sure you've got them down. Okay, so in the save in the new game region here, or sorry, not region, in the block of code here, we're going to put a new script called scr_save_game, and we're going to pass it the currently selected file. And in this script, it's going to have a message to let us know it's running. We're going to define the name of the file, which is tactics_save_ plus the string of save slot, which is going to be 0, 1, or 2. And then don't forget the .text at the end. There's a really useful function called date_datetime_string. And then if we pass it date underscore current underscore date time, it's going to give us the day and month of the year and the time as well. It's really useful. It's going to give it us as a string stored in date. So next thing what we want to do is open the file that we want to save to, because as soon as the player clicks on a save slot, we want to save data to that slot to let the game know, okay, this is a save slot, we can use it. It's pretty easy to save all our data. All we need to know is we need to pass it, we need to save the DS grid that holds the character stats. So we're going to use DS grid right for that. And character stats will have a string stored from this. Inventory is going to be a string stored from global.inventory using DS list right. And then world values, again, is going to be a string from global.ds values saved with DS list right. Some really useful functions. Makes our saving and loading really easy and really, like we have to type 3 things there to save all of our game information. This is one of the reasons why I like to use data structures rather than arrays, because it makes saving a lot easier. And then for every piece of information we want to save, we're going to add a new line. So on the first line, we're going to write a string of date to the file. Then we're going to add a new line. Then we're going to write the string of the character stats, which is a grid, the string of a grid to file. Then new line, save inventory, new line, save world values, and then close the file. And then we're just going to update our save slot text so that whenever we run that title screen again, it's going to show up properly. Normally at this point we would just go to the world room, but we haven't coded that yet, so we're just going to be able to see the date and time on a new save slot. So run the game, enter, and then let's choose a middle slot. You see now we've got October the 1st, 2020, and the time for me is 4:24. This is the exact time when this is being recorded. You should have something similar for your own date and time. And this is how we're going to be displaying save slots going forward. So the next thing we're going to add in is the ability to delete a save slot. So just under the matching curly bracket where we press enter, we're going to paste this. So if we press backspace, we're going to have a delete save slot region. So this is new. Let's open it up. And then we're just going to grab the name of the file that we're trying to delete, which is this. If that file exists, then show us a message to say we're going to be deleting it, and then delete the file. And then again, update the entries for the save slot array. Otherwise, if that file doesn't exist, then just show a message. So let's run the game. The middle slot should be filled for me. So if I press delete, it's gone. If I press delete on any slot now, the message at the bottom should say the file doesn't exist. Awesome. Okay, so we've added 2 new lines for both loading and new game. In load game, we're going to set the main state to load game, and we're going to go to the world map. In the new game, we're going to set the main state to game ready, and then go to world map. Why this is going to be important is you'll find out now. If we go to the player object and the step event, at the very top on the first line, we're going to add as long as the player state is in it and the global.main state equals game ready, then and only then do this stuff, which is going to set everything up and allow the player to go idle or walking. So none of this is going to run if the main state is not game ready, which it will be if it's a new game, and it won't be if it's a load game. So we need one more region to finish this off. I've already done it. Yeah, so in the end step, we're going to have a new region for the end step. And all we need is this. So load data region. If the room is the world map and the global main state is load game, then we're going to have a new script which is going to load our save files, and then we're going to set the global state to game ready. So what's happening here is when we load a game, we're setting the state for the main state to make sure the game isn't going to progress, and then only after the room is where we want it to be, after all the objects like the player, OBJ test, after all those have been created, we're going to run our load save game script, which you'll see in a minute, which is going to overwrite any values we might need to, such as the players X and Y, the story state, any units in the army, their stats, that kind of stuff. All that stuff is going to be overwritten here. And only after this is done, we're going to set our main state to ready, and then the game will continue as it did before. So let's go into this script now. This is the last script. Let's just make this a bit smaller. There we go. All right, cool. So again, we want to grab the file name because we're passing it the save slot. So it's going to be 0, 1, or 2. Then file is going to be opening the file. And remember, the date is the first line. So we're going to do file text read in, file text read line, so we can get to the next line. So then character stats is going to be a string read from the file, and because the second line we saved is the character and stats grid, that string is going to be stored in character stats, and then we go into a new line, and then we're going to read the string on that line, which is global.inventory, which is going to be a string saved into inventory, and then the same thing for world values. So basically, we've got 3 variables, and they're all strings. Now we need to convert those strings back into usable data, which is what we're going to do here. Let's just put a comment, convert these 3 strings into usable data, like that. So all we're going to do is make use of ds grid read and ds list read, which is going to overwrite these grids and lists with our strings that we just grabbed from the file. And then after this is done, we can close the file. And we also want to, well, because the values inside global.ds values have just been overwritten, we then want to make sure the players X and Y are in the correct location, which is what this is going to do, and then give the player the correct sprite index, which is basically the way they're facing, which is that line there. So now, if we run the game, this should all come together. So, save file here. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to do. In the player object, so that we can save and load the game. I just realized during editing I hadn't even shown you where to update the DS values for the player X and Y, as well as the player sprite. So all we are in the player object in the walking region. Just after we set the player state to idle, we're going to have a brand new region like this, saved player X, Y, and sprite. And all we're doing is saving the player's X into the relevant entry, saving the player's Y into the relevant entry, and saving the player's sprite into the relevant entry. So we want to be in the world menu region, and then here where we press enter, we want to check to see if the highlighted option is save or load. If it's save, then we can just run our save game script and pass it the global.current save file. If it's load, then we want to change the player state back to init and change the global.main state to load game. And then in the end step of obj main, this is going to run again, and it will be like we just loaded a new game. So let's run the game now. Press enter, new save file. Okay, so I've gained some stuff. If I save the game now and then quit or load, then we're at the same state. Let's just close down the game, run it again, and if I choose that same save slot, I should bypass the first story mission. There we go. If we go into the army, I've got all the rewards that were given to me, the units, and the weapons and armor stuff. Okay, so I've got all that stuff. If I then go to a battle, and we're just going to cheat, we're going to just win the battle. So press escape and delete. Victory. So we've gained some gold and item. Let's check to make sure we've actually got the item. Change gear. So there's the new item. So if we now let's move back to the first spot, and then we're facing up and to the left. I'm going to save the game. If I load it, nothing should have changed. Let's go into the army. Bots is still. Bots' weapon's been reset. What was it? This was it. Bots, or was it Brian? Okay, well I guess I've got a bug to fix. It's okay. If we then go to this story point, there's no battle because we've already progressed past that. Let's save the game again. So if I close down the game, run it again. So now we should be on the second story point facing that way. Let's progress to the next point. Let's add in our units. Again, we're going to cheat just to get past the battle. So let's go all the way back to the first story point. Save it again. Let's load it. Let's close down the game. Run it back up again. If we go back to this second point, there should be no battle. Let's save the game here. Close it down. Run it again. And we're in the same place. You go here, there's no battle. Go here, there's no battle. Go to the last place, and there should be a battle. Let's just add a load of people. Okay, go. So there we go. Let's again cheat to win. That's it. This would be a good place to have like an end game victory screen or something. We'll do that next time. Let me just go and fix this bug with the inventory, and that will be the last part of this tutorial. Okay, so I just spent like an hour thinking I had a bug when actually it was just 2 lines in the create event of the army screen object. I'll show you this now, so let's just zoom in a bit more. Alright, so at the very bottom here I had some test code. These 2 lines here. Every time, let me show you this. So you can see here some numbers. What this is it's displaying the contents of the units that are in the player's army. So this first line is butts. So he's got a 16, a 6, and an 8, and then 3 zeros, like that. And I noticed every time I opened the army screen, these values were getting reset. was like, why is that happening? So then I just checked the create event and realized I had these 2 lines here. They were overwriting Butts' equipment every time the army screen opened. So that's where the bug was coming from. But I did notice one more thing while I was bug fixing. So this kind of was actually a good thing it happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't have noticed. If we go into the create event of obj main and then Control F, type reward. At first, I thought maybe it was a problem. I was kind of scraping the barrel trying to find the reason. But one thing that I did that I should not have done is that I was giving the player on line 250 in the first reward, I was giving them a heal 1 spell, and I shouldn't be doing that because the tombs are the items that hold the spells. The spells are kind of invisible things. The actual item I should give the player is a Tomb of Healing. So I've just changed that, and if I let's close down the game and run it again. I never noticed that when I received the items it showed sword, sword and bow, and it should have been sword, sword and a spell, but there's no icon for the spell because it should have been a tomb. So if I just go through this text again, we should see 2 swords and a tomb as the item rewards, and there we go. So that's fixed that issue there. And so if we go to army and then butts, you can see at the moment at the very top here showing a row of 0s. If I add things to him now, this will change. So if we give him the tomb, the first number changes to 16, and then let's give him a sword as well, and then some armor. So he's got 16, 2 and 8 for his equipment. If we back out of this now and then save the game and then load it, the values are the same. If we go into the army screen, the values are still the same. Go into the gear, it's all there. If we close down the game and run it again, so 16 to 8, open army screen, and there's his gear. So that's it. That's where the bug was coming from. Silly mistake, but at least we fixed it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I will catch you next time. Bye for now.